Hi, Charles.
Hi, Dean. How are you today?
It's been a good day so far.
Good.
Charles, tell folks a little bit about you, and then I want to walk you through some hypotheticals.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me.
Sure.
I'm very honoured.
Mhm.
So I'm a fractional CRO, and I started my life in doing sales and publishing, notably with the Financial Times in London, and then worked in marketing services agencies, mainly on sales promotion, direct marketing, the measurable side of marketing, if you like. In France, I was fortunate enough to work in Paris, and then in Vietnam, in Malaysia, South Korea.
Wow.
Before, and a lot of those roles were kind of slightly interim roles, actually. And then I came back to the UK and set up Transaction Focus, um, which we do a lot of fractional CRO work, or interim sales work, and we run fractional teams globally, actually, mainly in the EMEA region, but also in the APAC region.
All right. Excellent. Well, you've worked, I've talked to, at this point, hundreds, I think, of CROs. That's definitely the most international experience of any guest I've had so far, by far. So cool. All right. So here's my first sort of hypothetical for you. That means you've started a lot of engagements with a lot of clients.
Oh yes,
And you've had a lot of first days.
I
And
get. I
so
have a lot of first days. Yeah.
you might want to turn off your Outlook because it keeps. I know it's Outlook because my wife has the same thing, uh, working for Pepsi, and it keeps timing when new emails come in.
I'm sorry. I did it
It,
last time.
it happens.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yeah. Well, I could hear you before. I could also hear Outlook. Okay. So here's my hypothetical question. First one, you've had a lot of first days working with a lot of clients all over the place. So when you sort of walk in virtually or physically, when you walk in on a new engagement with a brand new client on day one, like what's the dream scenario you're walking into, and what's the nightmare scenario you're walking into?
I honestly don't think the dream scenario happens very often.
Well, hopefully the
Uh,
nightmare doesn't either, but I'll let you go with it.
so the the dream scenario is where you've been recommended, very
Hmm.
strongly recommended, and you have the whole C-suite in the room, and they're all aligned, and they all know exactly what they want to be done.
Right.
This probably only really happens in very organized multinationals, who know they might have had a program which would be very successful and they want to scale it out to a new country or a
Hmm.
new channel. So that's a really ideal scenario.
But that doesn't happen very often, you're saying.
Does it, are you still you can still hear me there? And the you also asked me about
The
the
nightmare.
the nightmare scenario. So the nightmare scenario is when they know they need something, but they're not facing up to what needs to be done.
Okay.
There's a lot of resistance within the organization. The line managers, the CEO has a vision. He wants he or she wants you to come in and sort the problem, but some resistance within the organization, and there's a lot of siloing, and disruption. And you might say it's a nightmare, but actually it's fairly normal quite a lot of the time, particularly in the smaller SMB. And I'm quite used to dealing with that, and my
Uh,
team are quite used to dealing with that. So
right.
you might be sometimes when there's quite a nightmare, there's sometimes almost a bigger opportunity.
All right. Then,
Does that sound familiar, or does that sound
yeah, that
strange?
sounds pretty familiar. So let me ask you this then. Does it ever, does the client ever have, like, a couple or 3 months in after you've started and have had some time to get underway? Like, does the client ever have sort of an aha moment? It's like, I thought that, when we
Yeah.
brought you in, it was going to be X, but it turns out it was X plus Y, and that's fantastic.
Well, hopefully it's X plus Y plus Z to the nth of 10, many multiples, because I think
Right.
generally when we go in, we do a kind of discovery workshop. We have a structure. So sometimes we're doing it on our terms, the way we do it. And we like to probe them and get everything out of them and get their vision and their purpose and their mission and everything, so that we can actually think very much long term. So we have a long-term strategy for them, which is much more than they envisaged. So, but we only start on base level, first level initially. So we do that with them, and obviously with a lot of their input.
Right. Okay. Okay. So let's imagine that, you already had commitments for later in the day. So you only got to spend the morning with this new client, first time, no engagement. And now you need to drive to a hotel because there's a big conference happening there and convention style stuff. And you're the speaker. You're on stage. There's about 250 people in the audience. They've come up through the ranks, but all of them, all 250, are going to be starting their first ever engagement or job as a CRO tomorrow. So new to the role, new to the level that they've come up through. Okay. So I'm going to give you 3 things to say to them, and to start, and then you can finish the thought and the sentence with however long an answer it takes to let them know what they're in for. Okay. So number 1 is you're talking to them and saying, look, any CRO starting at a company is going to be surprised by what?
So yeah, any CROs is going to be surprised that they're not necessarily wanted there. So you've got to be ready for that you're not necessarily wanted there, and they're saying, we've got marketing people, we've got salespeople. Why do we need a CRO? What is a CRO? And I think that's sometimes the challenge. And I think in the North America, the CRO, everybody kind of knows what CRO is. But if you go into France or somebody, they say, qu'est-ce que c'est a CRO or whatever,
Right.
or Germany. So I think that's one of the. So that could be a surprise. That could be off-putting. So that's one of 3 things you mentioned. Is that right, Dean? One
Right.
of 3.
And then the next one, as you're talking to this audience, you said, look, whether you're going in as a full-time employee or they're your client, you're a fractional CRO, you're going to find many companies just don't understand what?
They don't. Yeah, they don't understand why you're there, and they don't necessarily welcome why you're there. So the important thing would be to frame. You've got to frame why you're there and
Right.
what you've been asked to do, and to make it very simple, so that everybody understands what you have to do. And then with big African elephant ears, you've got to then listen to what they want to say, or ask them questions. So you might reverse the question to them.
Oh, okay.
Why do you
All
think?
right.
Why do you think a CRO? Why do you think we might need a CRO
Right. All right. And then
to get some
I guess
engagement?
this one is mostly for the fractional folks in your audience, but as they sort of try to shoo you off stage, because it turns out you were kind of chatty, and but you're determined. You're going to tell them one more thing, and you're telling them, look, as you're looking for new clients and trying to build out your business, other than networking, the one thing that you should know about finding clients is what?
So, other than networking, one thing you should know about finding clients is about working with your whole team, whether it's marketing, whether it's direct sales on the telephone, face to face, or whatever. There's so many different. You've got to use the whole marketing mix where possible, and that's where the creativity coming in. It's like creating an orchestra with the marketing mix.
Right. Okay, no, that's a good one. I don't think
And,
Can you
and you're
expand on
like
that? Because I
the
don't think anyone's
CRO
ever
should
given
be the
that
chef,
answer.
the chef d'orchestre. He should be the head of the orchestra.
Right. Oh, that's good. All right. Okay, so they finally get you off stage, and you're out onto the conference floor now, and there's booths around and people walking around, and you're also meeting potential prospects, and maybe got a couple of meetings set up. I'll meet you guys at the coffee place at 3:15, and it's your first ever conversation with them. Basically, these are your prospects at the top of your funnel now, your next possible client. So when you're talking to new potential clients, what do they tend to overrate and underrate about the CRO role?
So I think they're probably read into your profile, and
Mm-hmm.
they think, oh, you're coming with the magic nugget, the magic solution, and they probably think that they might be testing you a bit.
Right.
Particularly in the Asia Pacific, if you're doing something in China, they're always testing you a bit hard, saying, "Oh, well,
Really?
you're going to bring this magic solution." So, so you've got to, I think you've got to really be made very clear that it's a team effort, um, and not just you. So, so a lot, and also they probably relying a bit too much on heavily on technology as well nowadays. And
Right.
it's not about just about technology; it's about people making the most of the technology. So you can have a relatively unsophisticated tech tech platform or tech stack, and then get amazing results. So it's not just about the very most amazing technology. It's about people, how people interact with that. Have I answered your question?
Yeah. And what about underrated?
What do they underrate?
Yeah.
I think when you say what do they underrate, what do you exactly mean? Just
I mean, like, that it's important and they don't think it's important.
okay. So I think working as a team is um, is incredibly important. So we go into a lot of. You still there, Dean? I can't see you. So working as a team is extremely important. Um, and working with every function. So we're working with a client now, and we're working with their sales team, but in fact we need to work with their tech team and their construction team, and also with the HR team. Hello, Dean.
Man, 200 and something episodes in, this is unfortunately, and I'm sorry for this, by far the most technologically challenged episode ever. I'm not sure
Yeah.
what's going on.
Well, you disappeared from screen. I was still there.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on.
Oh well. I know where we were, and and it actually the session is still going. It kept recording, so we should be good. And
Should
but
be
what I
good.
was asking for is where we were is I was asking when you're talking to prospects, what do they tend to underrate about either sales or the CRO role in an organization?
Yeah. So I was saying that the CRO can help coordinate it, but it's very much a team effort,
Right.
and it's a collaborative, cooperative effort in sales. And you need everybody. It's generating revenue. Yeah, it's generating growth. So everybody has
Right.
to, even the financial director. Quite often, I challenge financial directors, particularly in Europe. They can be a bit staid and not be too involved. But I actually say, well, actually, your job is to generate revenue as well.
Right.
So we bring together the whole team as one, and that's our job,
Okay.
to make sure everybody, and it's creating a culture as well. Um, and they don't realize that sometimes when you go in, but you're enhancing the culture and enhancing the sense of purpose. Your fellow countryman Simon Sinek is great at that. So I think that's really, really important. Once you have everybody has a purpose, and particularly
Right.
for new young people as well, they need guidance and they need a greater strong culture. And if the culture's not there, we quite, as our organ transaction focus, we go in and we help them create that culture, and
Right.
that's
Yeah.
that that that's a real driver.
I'm trying to. I don't remember who came up with the line. I just remember reading it decades ago, where someone says that culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'd say so, and
Mhm.
so that's that comes from the top, but it comes from everybody as well. So I think a CRO has got to be part of that, and if there's a strong culture within the organization, which is different, before you go in there, you've got to be really on board with that as well. So
Right.
there's a lot of pre-preparation, and that's another thing one could say to young people starting off CROs.
Yeah. Okay. Then, as you're talking to these prospective clients, what's a red flag you keep an eye out for? What's a green flag you keep an eye out for about whether they're a good match for you or a good match for any fractional CRO?
Yeah, I think a red flag is if they're a bit too short-term focused, because we live in
Right.
a world where AI can turn your business upside down. And if they're not seeing, they haven't everything got pretty well mapped out and future-proofed. Um, even in M&A, when companies buy, they don't. They're looking too much on financial and legal due diligence. They're not
Right.
looking at future proofing of the sales team, the brand, the market reputation, etc. So that's a red flag. Um, a green flag is, I think, when they know what their core strengths are versus the competitors, and they know how to double down on their core strengths. Because if you have three strong core strengths, if you double down on those, they keep you
Right.
going for longer, and then you've got to enhance those. And so there's always creativity. People think salespeople don't have creativity. Salespeople, CROs should be entrepreneurial. They should be know a lot about marketing, and they should be obviously brilliant commercially and good, great salespeople. So
Right.
so three, and try, and that's part of the people who work with us, Transaction Focus, all around the world, being present in 60 countries.
Right.
They've got to have those skills. They've got to have that three: entrepreneurial, creativity, and know about sales and marketing.
And I want before we start winding down, I want to sneak in one more question. You like talk to most fractional CROs are they're essentially like freelance project managers. I don't mean like they do the same kind of work. I mean you rarely have two of them at the same client, which means you don't work with other fractional CROs very much or at all. But you actually talk to a lot of fractional CROs. Relatively speaking, you talk to many compared to how many most talk to. So when you're talking to other fractional CMOs, like what are they talking about right now? What sort of trends are they seeing? What difficulties are they having? What seems to be working for them? Just generally, it can be anything. It's just trivia.
I wouldn't say it's trivial.
No, I mean, like
I
you don't
think
have to like give me the
they're
big thing,
terrified.
right?
Yeah, they're terrified.
Yeah,
Everybody's now, but suddenly become the most high qualified people who work for the biggest multinationals, been super
right.
uber successful. They exited 3 scale ups and whatever, or
Mhm.
10 scale ups. Everybody's now coming a bit like, oh Christ, we're all students again with
Right.
AI. It's a new way of doing it.
Yeah.
And I think the basic premise of a strong brand, a strong reputation, clear communication is probably more important. So that has to stay there. And I still think that also the traditional sales, like being good on the phone, spending more time on the phone, doing more events, face-to-face events. I think that's very important with your customers,
Right.
because it is more comforting. They can see you, and I think networks and reputational networks are more and more important. So there are some comforts. You just double down on those things or triple down on them, and you'll be better place.
All right. Okay. So these days, as we wind down, thank you for being here, by the way. This has been fantastic. These days, who should be reached? Like who, industry wise, company size wise, growth stage wise, who should be reaching out to you, and what's the preferred way for them to do it?
Yeah, we have a pretty clear IICP. We work for several times for IBM, Intel
Mm-hmm.
Corporation, Alcatel-Lucent Enterprise, etc. We work for a lot of multinationals, but we feel the people we really can help enormously, and we do consistently, is companies with a turnover and ARR of about 5 million US
Mm-hmm.
dollar,
Right.
probably in the tech space. We have an acronym that people say, well, what do you do, Charles? And what is transaction? We say we just use SaaS with 2 S's, software sales as a service. So
Mm-hmm.
it's normally a tech company. It can be all sector agnostic. But they're 5 million US dollar annual turnover, and they're wanting to scale into a new channel, which
Right.
they might not know so well, or into new sector or into new country, where we can help them go into a new country very quickly. So
Okay.
where we can help them scale up fast and securely.
All right. And the best way to contact you is to go to LinkedIn or
Yeah, LinkedIn or transactionfocus.com, whatever,
right.
find us. There are not many Charles Smees around.
No, probably not. No. All right, Charles, this has been so good. Thank you so much for this. Sorry about any sort of the hiccups we had.
No,
And
thank you. Thank
thanks
you.
for being here. And it was great to see you again. And thanks everyone for watching. And we'll see everyone next time. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dean. It's been a pleasure.